So today I'm joined by Donavan Hutchinson of award-winning solutions company SHI. Welcome, Donavan.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Hayley.
You're very, very welcome. So this is called Disrupt.
Yes.
I met you and it was like we wanted to put the world to rights.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. And so we want to understand more about you, what you're doing at SHI, what you're doing generally, and just cover some really disruptive topics, quite frankly. But when we start these podcasts, what we do is we say, because none of us have been born to work in technology, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And I want to ask you, we find out how you've got into this industry, what's your journey been like, and sort of what are you doing today, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of good stuff.
Okay. All right. So I literally got into the industry by chance. If anything, I blame my mother for getting me into the industry. I left school, went into the army at a young age, had an accident, and as soon as I came out of the army, whilst I was recuperating at home, rather at the barracks, my mom effectively got the Thursday Star newspaper, which had all the jobs in, and a VAR had been acquired within the UK in Sheffield, an organisation called Insight, and they were hiring at the time. So managed to get me a interview. I hobbled into the interview in my crutches, and it was quite interesting. I ended up making my first call, first sale, and left that day, had a tap on the shoulder, and it was like, do you want a job and start tomorrow? And that was it. And
how many years ago is that?
20 years ago. Yes. Yeah, 20 years.
Firstly, are you okay? Are you all...
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, like, since then, I've ended up breaking more bones.
Okay.
So, but I ended up starting my career within sales capacity. I then moved into other areas in the business, into bid desk and negotiating with vendors, key programs, and then was asked to go back into sales and set up a win team. And then I moved into enterprise sales and became the top sales rep over at Insight. So
make it sound so easy, and I know it's not been easy. I know, like anything, getting into something new is not easy. Yeah. The transition from working in being in the army to jumping into a technical sales role, like you skipped over that.
Yeah.
What was the learning curve like? I mean, what kind of drove you? Because you're obviously naturally built to be wanting to sell and to promote and engage and make a difference. But how did you suddenly realise that was the role for you? That was the kind of area for you, the industry for you?
I think because I was still within my learning cycle, what had happened is I left school fairly early, went into college, and I was, the topics that I actually ended up studying for was horse husbandry and equine science,
right,
and also teaching. For horse riding. So I did my A-levels, mainly focused around horse care and then horse husbandry. And my ultimate goal is to have my own RDA facility, which is Riding for the Disabled Association. So I've made that clear to everyone. And it's still my goal today. And I think even when I went into the army, I was still having to teach a lot of people. So I was in that mental learning life cycle. So going into the IT industry, the organisation that I joined, they had a good platform for training and developing sales talent. And it was a lot of hours. I think the training module was something like 6 weeks long. And it was all about new processes, systems. But back then we had compact Brio machines with CRT monitors and fax machines. And a catalogue, which ultimately people were just faxing over POs to you. So it was very, very different. And I think what's really key about the IT industry is it's ever evolving, so you're always learning no matter what. So I don't think I've ever got out of that learning cycle per se, so over the last 20 years, because it has been ever evolving.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think you're right. I think technology, I think that's why a lot of people who've come on those podcasts and said they fell into it.
Yeah.
It's because it's ever changing, and it always will, because it's innovation,
Yeah.
and innovation changes, doesn't it? So, which is great. Well, I wanted you on this podcast because I know out of anybody that I know,
Yeah.
and I'm actually absolutely privileged to know you, Donavan, I feel. We want to talk about some subjects that often just go either under the radar,
Yeah.
or they're box ticking exercises, or they're things that we've experienced and we don't quite know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So, diversity and inclusion. Where do we begin with this subject?
I think it's such a broad subject by any means. There's a lot that we should be doing that the IT community isn't doing. I think the IT industry, whilst it's made significant strides in raising awareness of diversity, equality and inclusion, like you said, it's tick box exercises. I think in the majority, there's a lot of pinkwashing. There's a lot of
slow down. Pinkwashing, rainbow capitalism. Explain what that is.
So this is when organisations effectively utilise special events. Let's take it's Pride Month right now. So rainbow capitalism is essentially where organisations would take the opportunity to promote themselves from a marketing standpoint to be very inclusive and supporting of the LGBTQ plus communities, changing their logos as a prime example. But what they tend to do is maybe do a couple of posts on social media. There's no raising of awareness, there's no education, there's no contribution towards the LGBTQ plus communities. Effectively, there's no action. And that's essentially what rainbow capitalism is. It's being able to increase awareness of one's organisation, and it's a form of consumerism. So being able to attract people just by the by either pinkwashing or rainbow capitalism, using the flag to generate more business because you're seen as being supportive. But are you actually supportive, or are you just doing what everyone else is doing?
To be seen to be. Is it a bit like positive discrimination, isn't it, I suppose, but with a more specific agenda, because it's more cool to do it and to be seen to be?
Well, I think it's got to the point now where certain groups or certain holidays or certain events, people naturally follow what other organisations are doing because they believe it's the right thing to do. So it's that copycat syndrome, and many a times you'll see a couple of organisations who are actively doing things about a certain topic, posting something out on social media as to what they're physically doing, and within minutes you're seeing all these other organizations. It's like a domino effect. Oh, rainbow, and by the end of the week, LinkedIn is filled with colorful rainbows, for example. Or it could be breast cancer awareness, and that again is where I come in with the pinkwashing. Like everyone changes their logo for breast cancer awareness month, and everyone goes pink. But what are they actually doing? How are they contributing?
So you are not only a brilliant salesperson. We want to talk about your career journey as to how you've got to be the MD of SHI, and that's a journey in itself. And that's brilliant. And you've obviously done exceptionally well. I would say that you've done well regardless. And the regardless piece is the journey that we go on and the fights we have to fight to try and be heard sometimes. Tell me currently, what is it that you've changed at SHI, and what are you doing? What groups have you created? Because I know you've done a fabulous job of that. And out of anybody who does stuff, you do a lot of stuff. And so let's talk about that a little bit. I want everyone to understand, what are those groups, what do they mean, and how have you set those up? Because I think everyone should then take action from your action.
Absolutely. So we already had an employee resource group, or overarching resource group, which was called WISH, standing for Women in SHI. And it's the empowerment of women into technology, and providing the necessary resources, education, and also inspiring more women to become leaders within the organisation. Being a woman-owned business enterprise, and also being the largest private minority woman-owned business enterprise in the US. I think this has certainly come from our leader, Ty Lee. So when I joined, my immediate response was to join Wish. And in a sense disrupt or to capitalize on being part of women in SHI and being able to expand that further. One thing I identified is that there wasn't other ERGs in place for the LGBTQ plus communities. There were some committees in place for the Latin and Hispanic or Latinx and Hispanic community. There were committees in place for the Black Culture Collective, which is now a formalized employee resource group. That we have the Asia Pacific and Islanders Committee as well, supporting that particular group. We also have Fusion, which is open to employees from around the business, regardless of where they fit within the organization, regardless of role, and they're sponsored into that particular group to look at ways of improving employee morale, look at how we could support the business to improve the culture, empower learning, education as a whole. So although Wish initially was the overarching employee resource group as such,
it was a start.
It was a start, and off the back of there, we have loads of different groups. So we're looking at veterans in the workplace. We're looking at disability groups as well. So we're not there quite yet to cover every single group. But these groups are all going out, meeting on a either bi-weekly basis, monthly basis. They're looking at how they can create awareness within the organization. They're participating in events. So we have our Summerfest events where they have their tables and they're helping to educate employees. I've sat on a podcast internally and what we call a fireside chat where I was able to be interviewed by people part of the Wish committee to raise awareness for the LGBTQ plus community, which ultimately created Embrace today. And it's a very vibrant culture of amazing individuals from all over the globe.
Amazing.
Really, so.
And do you know what this is? This is a form, for me, how I see that. Some people might say, we're creating other groups and we're just kind of compartmentalising people. But actually, it's creating a sense of community whereby, and you've got somewhere to go when you want to connect with either like-minded people or people within a certain collective. But it's ultimately about education and wider communities and feeling a sense of belonging, because I think as humans, we feel like we want to belong. And that can only benefit the business. Have you seen productivity from a business point of view because of the groups that you've created as well?
I think, if anything, the productivity is increased on the basis that we're empowering people to be the best versions of themselves when they come into work. So they're being able to feel that they're not having to put on a show when they're in the workplace. And because of that, they're helping to inspire other people. They're feeling comfortable in how they dress, how they communicate, because it's not just about the education, it's the empowerment of employees to be their best versions of themselves. We've had people who have ultimately either come out or they've ended up feeling more appreciative that there are these groups to be able to go and speak about either mental health issues or about a particular situation. Could be pandemic pets or whatever, but there's loads of other things that I think that organizations can do. So we spent a lot of time within SHI reviewing the benefits package. So how do we support our employees within the workplace? How can we improve the benefits that are available to them to support mental health, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic? So we increased the benefits by adding over 250 additional benefits into the organisation. We looked at even how we can support people for everyday spending. So going to their local Asda or
given the climate,
or Tesco's or whatever. And being able to get discounts, from large retailers. And then we've looked at other ways to be able to support people by creating outside groups or internal groups for having more social activities. So we have a social committee which looks at all different types of social events, from gaming to football to netball to bingo. Could be anything, just to bring the communities together.
Amazing.
And then the other thing that I did at the very start is I hosted a Wednesday evening out of hours session from 7 o'clock onwards. It was only going to be for 30 minutes or maybe an hour, but it ended up being a 4 to 5 hour long evening call with employees who were based at home, who just needed someone to talk to. And there were a number of rules to it. No discussion about work, no discussion about political topics. Just be yourself and just talk. And a lot of the time we would have people join who just wanted to listen in, because they were the only the only people that they conversed with were those at work during 9 to 5. And then after that time, they were sat in their homes feeling quite isolated. Yeah. So since that group, it got to a point where everything opened up. And that group kind of dwindled down, so we stopped it for a short while because people were allowed to meet post-pandemic. But what was really interesting is a new group was formed for the same time called Humans of SHI, and that group is so vibrant, and it's set at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. And every single week, and people join. So I feel that by doing that initially, it's empowered everyone else to start conversing outside of work, and it's forged very, very strong relationships, which, coming to your point around productivity, has increased productivity because people are able to communicate more widely within the workplace. They feel more comfortable speaking to people because they've got to know them outside of work, even virtually, and it's just improved morale overall.
Amazing. We cannot, and I will not, because this is a disruptive podcast, so we're going to dig deeper into the drivers of Donavan, which is really the crux of why probably everyone's going to listen, because there's going to be some great subjects. But the drivers behind why did you do this? You've had an experience, and I know that, you've had to go through and jump hurdles and probably not be authentic at times. Yeah. Talk us through some of those, because the reasons why we do things often is because we don't want to repeat the experiences for others that we've had. Yeah. And also, I think there's a massive wave. So those people who are listening thinking, oh my God, we just want to do good business, and why are we always talking about people all the time? People are businesses. We spend 70% plus of our lives working. And actually, we've got to cut the societal bullshit norms that we've put on ourselves as individuals and companies, because that's not going to wash anymore. I think COVID's been a massive helper in that, in some respects. But let's talk about your experiences. What's driven you and what drives you, and what hurdles have you had to jump to get to where you are today? So
I think that my entire career has been very interesting in a sense of words, and what I mean by that is I actually came out whilst in my IT career. So I'm a father of 2 beautiful girls, and I now have a husband. My ex-wife also works within the organisation that I work for, also worked in a previous organisation. We have a very open family, but it wasn't always okay to be to be myself, and there's a number of reasons why that is. I think there's still a big stigma within the industry about being the truest version of yourself and what that actually means within organisations, and I think that a lot of people tend to hold back about either their mental health, or their sexuality, because it's the fear of rejection, the fear of not being able to progress within your career. I've always struggled by being the underdog within the industry in many ways, because I've always been told, Donavan, you won't achieve this. Donavan, you're too young to achieve this. Donovan, you will not, why are you...
Barrier.
In every organisation that I've worked for, I've had people message me on LinkedIn, and those people know who they are, every step of the way, questioning my motives around why I've moved throughout the industry to progress my career. Donovan, you would never be a managing director. Donovan, you're too young to manage people. You know what I would say to those people now is, right, I've actually proved myself by creating businesses from scratch, by joining businesses together, by being the top salesperson. When I was told that you will not be the top salesperson and you should be an administrator, I have challenged the organizations that I've worked for, and it kind of got to a point where I've had to create a brand for myself to a point where I feel okay to be my truest version of myself, which is what I actively promote. And I think a lot of that stemmed from my entire life being publicized in the media when I was trying to keep my family together. And I think it's quite sad that even now people within the industry don't bring their true versions of themselves to work today. And the reason for that is because there are stigmas associated with certain groups. And that could be age, that could be sexual orientation, sexual preference, it could be gender. And I think that there's a lot of work that the industry needs to do in order to not only raise awareness, but actually take action and showcase that you are taking action as an organization, and being able to also support those groups who are helping to educate and raise awareness. Because being a diverse organization is not just about ticking a box and saying, we have X amount of males versus females.
Great.
That, I mean, that doesn't really mean anything,
no,
right? So it's about all people. It's as simple as that. But so I've never been in a position where I've been able to feel comfortable enough to be the truest version of myself until the last few years within the IT industry. There's this whole I can tell various stories, but there was instances where I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, this is my husband. It would be, this is my partner, or my partner.
For fear of being judged or rejected.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel really bad for even saying, oh, my partner. It should be, this is my husband, and that's okay, right? So, and I think that is where people need to educate people that it's okay to be the best version of yourself. Because
I think there's an element of vulnerability. And what does authenticity mean, right? Because we spoke about this earlier, that we are the result of various people around us. But authenticity means being vulnerable. But being vulnerable should be considered a superpower.
Yeah.
Because actually sitting with that vulnerability and knowing that at least you're being true to yourself is really important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, companies understanding that people need to be true to themselves is important. Yeah. So it's that voice of, isn't it? It's that respect of the people that you work with.
But the issue is that still today,
I know,
many people are worried about speaking up. It's the fear of how what they say is going to be perceived in a professional manner. The IT community is very, very professional, right? Or it's seen to be, and that's kind of the reputation, right, of the IT industry, or certainly the reputation that the IT industry wants to have. And because of that, there's still that misinformation or misguided viewpoint that being professional means that you have to act a certain way or be a certain type of individual. And you cannot say certain things. You cannot do certain things. And I think we need to change that. We do. People are fearful that if they speak up about a particular area, we need to do more for women in the channel. We need to do more for the LGBTQ plus community. We need to do more for the Indian community. We need to celebrate all the different holidays. They're scared of saying that in their organization because they feel that their leaders within that organization would say, well, why do you want to focus on that? You should be doing your job and focus on that. That's more important. But these topics are extremely
it's
important.
so important. I mean, productivity is always the bottom line. I get that. But I think, you and I, for very different reasons, have lots of hurdles. And maybe belligerently, we are just rebels that just want to get a job done. Maybe this is why we connected, right? And that's important because if we don't have people like you in the world, then these changes, these voices are not going to be heard, which is really important. Yeah. But I think, as organisations, profitability is key, but profitability comes from, and I've seen lots of businesses actually flip profitability to the last priority, weirdly, and focus on the culture and the people and people buying into why they're doing what they're doing. And we have got to be with this step change now. This will be different. We will be a different world in 5 to 10 years, how we work. And that's really important. If you could give advice to organisations now, knowing what you've had to go through, not just yourself, but also what you've done at SHI, what would be the simple, most obvious thing that companies or leaders can do now, today, to start encouraging this open-mindedness?
Education is key, and I think will always be at the top of the agenda. I think it's duties for every single manager and leader to understand what DEI actually means within the workplace. Things like unconscious bias as a prime example. So I think educating yourselves as to what DEI stands for and how to nurture and foster a workplace of belonging and inclusion. There are many studies out there that state that a happy workforce is a productive and also very profitable workforce. And if you make sure that your employees are very, very I'm trying to think of the word, fairly and equally, and they have that sense of belonging, then they'll work harder for your organisation. Whilst looking at the profitability line, yes, that comes with the strategy and what your focuses are and how you apply your focuses and your time. But if you have unhappy employees, or if you have employees are having to hide their truest version of themselves, which ultimately make them more productive and more creative in terms of their thinking, then it's going to take longer for you to get to that productivity and profitability level. So I think organizations just need to educate themselves first and foremost, and then also help to educate their employees. Set up employee resource groups. Make it about the employees. Give them time out of their working day to have these employee resource groups so that they can discuss topics in
a safe space.
In a safe space, absolutely. But many organisations aren't at that stage yet. We're on a learning curve, and I know that the industry is evolving. I think with some of the industry-wide events, sometimes it's about how much you pay for the wine on the table. Other times it is about actual true statistics of how you're driving DEI as a standpoint. So I think that the whole stigma around the industry and how it's perceived when it comes to DEI needs to change.
I don't think our industry's exclusively a problem, but I do think that we are, as an innovative, fast-growing industrial revolution, we need to make sure that we start to make those changes for others to follow. The biggest issue I'm hearing, and we have at the moment, and this is where the tick boxing comes a lot, is hiring. So we are in a situation at the moment where, of course, there are more open roles than there are unemployed people, certainly in our sector. We are seeing salaries being thrown around ridiculously. And yet, conversely, we're hearing, obviously, in the States, a lot of VC-backed businesses are having to make people redundant because of the nature of they've over invested in resource, et cetera, et cetera. But where we have that skill shortage and where diversity is top of the agenda or high in the agenda, how can we, what are the things that we can do to make sure that we aren't just tick boxing and we're hiring people because they happen to fit a particular stereotype to make us look diverse?
Yeah.
And how can we use how can we still go on the basis that it is a meritocracy and we are wanting the best people for the best job? And I know you might not have all the answers, and if you do, great, because I'm going to sell this for millions. But how can we do that as businesses, and how are you doing it?
I think that it's been extremely difficult to hire within the industry, from the industry. I've said it a couple of times before that the industry has been really good at recycling the same talent pool, and you kind of see people moving from organisation to organisation to organisation. And whilst that's great because there are transferable skills within the industry, it's not allowing us to to be more creative or to be more diverse as an industry, because the industry has always been very male dominated, right? As a prime example, if we just take like one particular area of gender diversity, within the channel, we should be really focusing our time and attention on educating the younger generations to inspire them to want to go into the IT industry. Also looking at things like graduate programs. We've got a great graduate program within SHI, which we set up last year, and we've got 100% retention rate, which is unheard of in the IT industry. And what we were able to do is look at the candidates who come to those assessment days. We always want an equal number of male to female ratio when we have those days, just from a gender parity perspective. But we also want to make sure that we've got a diverse group of individuals as well, and we'll choose the best people for that job, regardless, right? So it's not to tick a box. In fact, it's completely independent. Our HR teams are involved in that, and we choose the best candidates for those jobs. Now we bring them in and we educate them. And our top salesperson right now actually used to be a plumber.
Oh, I love this topic because it came up on Channel Chat about plumbers, and I think I might have mentioned it, and then I mentioned it, and then it got drawn out into the panel. Anyway, you have to watch it because I love that you've got this story.
Yeah, so our top salesperson is a plumber. The second top salesperson in the graduate team used to be a teacher. Which is absolutely amazing. We've got a personal trainer, a nutritionist, and we've got some.
I mean, that's a win-win for me, by the way. You can do a bit of PT and nutrition, same time as selling stuff, and we can share that skill set.
So I think if anything, rather than recycling the same talent pool, what we're doing is we're focusing our time on the younger generation, and we're seeing great rewards, to be honest. But that's also inspiring more people in their local communities who see that they used to be a teacher or a plumber or a personal trainer or a scientist or whatever.
There's no elitism.
Industry. There's a lot of transferable skills, and I think that we've pigeonholed people for so many years. It's just being able to get the best out of those individuals and inspire them to be in technology. And technology is not to be technical. It's not just to be sales. There's various other roles in operations or in leadership or marketing.
HR, the works. Do you get asked? If you're asked what job you do and you say I'm an MD of a tech business. Do they say, "Oh, can you fix my computer?"
Yes, a lot of the times. Yeah. So, if anyone ever asks me like, "What do you do?" I just say I work in tech.
And then they say, "Can you fix my computer?" Or they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah. But immediately they think that I know technology, and there's this whole stigma about working in tech. I'm not very technical when it comes to using technology. I sometimes have difficulties with my own iPhone or my Apple iPad.
Literally turning my laptop on.
But I know who to go to to help me to fix things.
And that's the point of having a great network. If this doesn't work, then we know who to press the record button. You've achieved so much in such a short space of time. I mean, you're relatively young and you are still firing and wanting to make changes. And I absolutely applaud you for that. I think it's brilliant, and long may that continue. We need to do more stuff. What are the key changes you want to make? What do you see the next sort of 5 years looking like? Because we've obviously had COVID. We're on the brink of a recession. We've got cost of living issues thrown at us alongside a myriad of other issues. What do you think the next 5 years going to hold for you and your organisation, and how would you like to be effective in the next 5 years?
So I think as an organisation, it's going to be challenging for every single company within the IT industry. The IT industry will be impacted quite severely, I think, with the upcoming recessions. If we don't get these chip shortages sorted out. But I think that many organisations are currently holding back in recruiting at this moment in time because they're not sure what the future holds for them. Certainly from our perspective, we're continuing to hire, we're continuing to invest because we believe that that's where much of our growth is going to come from through those investments. I think nurturing your employees that you have, making sure that they have accessibility to benefit programs that are going to help and support them as we all go through a potential recession. Being able to make sure that communication is there for the employees. Mental health is going to play a significant factor on everyone over the next few years. For me personally, over the next 5 years, I just want to continue to raise awareness across the industry. I want to make sure that we're actually doing rather than saying we're going to do stuff.
Talk is cheap at this point, isn't it? I think we're all a bit exhausted with the whole, let's do diversity and gender parity and LGBTQ+, and ineffective.
I mean, it was quite recently, I did a very personal post, and I wasn't going to mention this, but I might as well. But I did a very personal post for one or two reasons. One, to raise awareness of both pinkwashing and rainbow capitalism that is across all industries, not just the IT industry. But for the month of Pride and also for the rest of the year, I'm actually fundraising for the LGBT Foundation and the great work that they do in helping to support and educate businesses, but also act as a support line to the LGBT community and also its allies for mental health support. And they're doing so many amazing things, but they are a charity. And as part of the post, I did put on there that both myself and my husband have created a GoFundMe page for the industry. Anybody who would like to donate, feel free to donate. It's going direct to the charity. All funds are going direct to the charity. And within the space of 24 hours, although the post got over 70,000 views and hundreds of likes, what was really interesting, still to this day, a week later after that post, not one donation from the entire community and industry, right? So I'm not saying that people should donate. I know that there's a lot of worthy causes out there. This is Pride Month, and it is for a valid cause.
Being devil's advocate, do you think that they don't know where the money's going and what benefit it's going to give?
It's listed. The link. I provided the links on the post and show how the money is spent. I mean, that's absolutely fine. That's what I'm doing personally. I think I'm the only person on there that has donated. I will be donating. Like literally. But no. But from that. I think, if anything, I mean, it is the commemorative 50th year anniversary for the LGBTQ Pride community this year. So there's a lot of things that we can be doing. I know that people support different charities, which is absolutely amazing.
But out of 70 odd thousand views, you'd like to think you had at least maybe 10.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I don't know what the ratio is on penetration.
It proved two things to me. One, that there's still so much work to do out there in the industry, and that there is a lot of rainbow capitalism and pinkwashing out there. And two, that despite what people post, now that was a personal post because that was a picture of me and my husband with the progressive flag behind us, but despite what you post, many of the posts tend to be more visual aids, and I think that people fall into the trap that they see that the community are acting on that post and they're clicking likes, and they feel obliged to click themselves. And that's ultimately what it shows me. So there's a lot that needs to change within the entire IT industry and the way that we do things.
So action is far better than just clicks at this point.
It is, yeah. It's not about likes. It's about what you do and how you action. So
the impact of everything that we discussed today on mental health as well. Obviously, there's some big stuff that you guys are doing there.
Yeah.
I think we've got to be very mindful that we're going to still see this on the increase in the next few years. How can we be more supportive as an industry? How can we use the skills that we've got and the communities that we're forging to help with mental health problems, which affects every group and every area of life?
Yeah, so mental health is a significant topic of conversation within SHI as a whole. So we're focusing on ways that we can promote awareness of mental health by training managers to be able to identify mental health, but also to promote that it's okay to not be okay because of the stigmas that are associated with mental health. I think me speaking up personally as the leader for the UK organisation about all of my troubles with mental health in the past, hopefully that's helping to show that regardless of what role you have within the organisation, who you are, that everyone at some point in their life will come across mental health as a situation either for themselves or somebody in their family or their children or mothers, their parents. It is something that needs to be recognised more widely. And there are a lot of things that organisations can do, certainly from a benefits standpoint. So if organisations do provide healthcare to their employees, make sure that there are some counselling sessions as part of that, or making sure that within the workplace or certainly on intranets that what Mind as an organisation are doing and the numbers that you can call that are completely confidential are accessible to the employees, making sure that HR teams understand mental health and are there to help and support and train and develop people as soon as they walk through the door. So when you have new starters as well, we have Mental Health Awareness Week and Mental Health Awareness Month. I think this year is October or November, Mental Health Awareness Month. Don't post about mental health awareness just externally to make a point that you're accepting of mental health within the industry. It's the actions that you take internally in order to promote mental health and awareness and education, which is more impactful than trying to get as many likes for your own organisation. So there are charities as well for mental health. And these are the people who actually have probably the hardest jobs in the world. They're the ones who are saving lives, ultimately.
They are like the unsung heroes.
Absolutely. I would recommend any business leader, in fact, I would challenge any business leader to actually go out there and spend maybe a day or 2 days in the life of one of those call handlers. Right, to help and support, even just listening.
Because even though, we might be having the odd bad day and life doesn't go quite as we expect it, and we sit with a lot of pain or decisions or whatever, to sit listening to real, true problems that people literally can't get out of. That must be very, not just grounding, but incredibly humbling.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot, more deaths just due to mental health. So I actually sat in on it was part of in the Sheffield City Centre. They had a support group line which people can just sit in, listen in on. It was completely confidential, so you have to register and give all your details, and you can sit and listen in on what a call is like, for either mental health or people, with mental disabilities, in general. And it was quite eye-opening because, some of the things that even the police have to deal with, all these support groups, the ambulance services have to deal with. It impacts a number of different people, including the lives of the families of those individuals as well. So there are courses that you can go on to which help to educate yourself around mental health awareness and being able to identify it. But they're not widely advertised. I think as a community, we can do a lot more around that. So
I think we've got mental health first aiders here, and I think that's and we publicise that internally because it's really important that people know they've got a safe space. We can all say, my door's always open, and door's always open policy, which means absolutely shit all, by the way, because people don't register that. They assume that you're busy. But mental health first aiders is really important. I think it really does help.
I think that whole education to the management teams of asking their employees, are you okay?
Genuinely.
Are you okay? That can spur a lot of conversations around, at the moment, I also support a number of people within SHI outside of work who are going through mental health challenges, problems at the moment, but they're being extremely successful during the day, and it's okay that somebody can break down and cry on a call, and they're not, they don't feel judged about being themselves, because why should they be? No. And I think that's where the industry does need to change.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. For me, you are the epitome of a business leader and how you should be acting. A business leader should act.
Thank you.
I'm sure that we all supported and have that safe space. So I feel a knighthood coming. If I was the queen, you'd definitely have a knighthood. So fun outro questions, because literally we probably could talk about this all day. But so, who inspires you the most?
Who inspires me? I have a number of people that inspire me. I think my biggest... that's challenging.
Do you know what? I really find it hard to answer this question.
From a work sense or a personal?
Just generally. So your core drivers, who do you think, they're my kind of love to, they just, the things they say or do or whatever.
So I have two kind of categories. So the people that have truly inspired me to be me and to do everything that I do naturally are going to be my parents, who have been absolutely amazing. They come from rough upbringings, let's say, like the working man. My dad's still an engineer. My mom unfortunately can't work just due to disability, but they literally gave me a platform to understand what it means to be a human being and to treat people as human beings, right? So which I use in everything that I do, right? And they've always been there to support me at every step of the way and every challenge. So they inspire me every single day because they gave me that platform, and they
I think a lot of people will be very thankful for your parents, given what you've done for other people. So.
But there are people in the industry, I would say, that have continued to inspire me. You, as an example, and I'm not just saying that because
I hate on the podcast. I'll hide under the
table. There are people who are not afraid to be outspoken, who want to be, they're not wanting to be disruptive to be disruptive. They're wanting to to make sure that they're getting across very valid conversation points that need to be had in order to drive change for the future. I think that there's a number of people, and I'll call a couple out. Julie Marsland was by far my greatest mentor. She was an operations manager many years ago. She taught me and guided me in every single role. Even to this day, she's guided me in every single role. I can always call up Julie and say, like, Julie, I'm considering doing this, or I want to do that. And although she doesn't work in the IT industry anymore, she is the one person I go to, my first call, right? Because she believed in me, and she helped and guided me, and she's been there to support me. There's people like David Abbott, who, like one of my oldest friends. We worked together at Insight many years ago. He actually works for a competitor, but we speak very often because, again, we have, he inspires me because he's also done a lot with his career, as a whole, and hasn't been judgmental. Alex Tatham is another person who inspires me, and I think is just an absolute gem of a character, just extremely genuine, and I think his achievements and how he's been able to foster a culture of inclusivity and also where everyone within his organization believes in him. He inspires me as a leader, as a great leader. So there's a few people.
But look, we were never meant to do any of this on our own, right?
Yeah.
We are hardwired for that connection. We need to lean on people. And in the words of our lovely Brené, we can have courage and we can have comfort, not at the same time. I think you are the absolute poster child for where courage has been needed. So, second one, advice you'd give your younger self. So if you could go back to, probably, how old were you when you went to the army?
16.
If you could give your 16-year-old self now, knowing what you know now, some advice, what would that be?
I think the only advice I would give myself is, no matter what life throws at you, the challenges that you face, just keep going. Right? There's going to be a lot. I wouldn't change my life for anyone because it's allowed me to be who I am today. But I would say just keep going. You're going to have some really shitty times. You're going to have some really good times. But just be you. And just keep going. That's it.
Sometimes sitting with pain and working through it is the biggest lesson you'll ever have. And
that's why I wouldn't change it, because I think I think if anything, I wouldn't want to change like what I've had to go through, because they've allowed me to become who I am like right now. And I think without going through those pain points and those challenges within life, I think
wouldn't be you today.
If I knew of those challenges that they were going to come up, then I'd be a very different person, and probably not the person that that I am right now. So for me,
life's not a game of Pac-Man. You know, you can't hit a ghost and die.
Yeah,
you got to keep going. Keep going. Game 500. Okay, last final fun question. Favourite pub snack? Okay, I'm a massive peanut fan. Everybody will know that because I talk about that all the time. Beer and peanuts is like my Friday night. I've got to have some salted peanuts. Is it crisps, peanuts, or olives?
Oh, I don't like olives. I'm not a fan of olives. No. I mean, I've tried them, and then every few years I might try them again and just see. Because sometimes you're
I feel like I'm missing out not having olives.
No, I've got olives in the fridge, but I think they've been there for a very long time, just in case somebody wants to come round. It's like
have a mouldy olive.
Yeah. So here you go. They're out of date.
And so cosmopolitan.
But I don't know. I am very savoury as a savoury person. I don't like sweet stuff. So for me, I like nuts as well. But I like pork crunch or pork scratching.
Oh, I love a pork scratching. Oh.
In the old days, they used to have these pork crunch in the workmen's clubs, which is like the blown up pork scratching, and they were really.
They were like the intro to proper pork scratching.
Yeah. But
the ones you can get from the butchers are amazing.
Yeah.
I did actually, because when I was riding when we were kids, so probably similar to you, you'd get so hungry, and it always usually ends up at a pub somewhere. I don't know why, but it does. Pork scratchings, yeah.
So every week, we took a trip to just a local place called Crystal Peaks at shopping centre. So, and they've got a place called Berets there. I think it's a chain where they do like pork sandwiches, but they also have like pork scratchings.
Amazing.
And I always get that. So.
Oh my God! I've now found a new one I'm going to add to my list. Amazing, Donavan, you've been the best guest. Honestly, you've been brilliant, and I absolutely wholeheartedly support and love what you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're making a lot of people's lives a lot better. So thank you, and thank you for being part of this disruptive chat. We could do another one, maybe Mark 2.
Yes, definitely.
See what we've done. But
definitely.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Hayley. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed the show, and do stay tuned for the next one.